I never imagined I'd become the kind of woman who risks everything just to feel seen again. My name is Carmen, and for over 2 decades, I gave my heart to a marriage that once felt magical but slowly faded into a cold, quiet routine. I've stood in the kitchen gripping the counter, feeling the weight of being invisible in my own home. Then one night, my husband Daniel suggested something that snapped me out of the numbness, something wild, something dangerous. He invited me to a mysterious club. I put on a red dress I hadn't worn in years, one that hugged me in places I'd forgotten I still had. That night, wrapped in shadows and surrounded by strangers, I crossed a line I never thought I would. And whatever was broken between us might never be the same again. I remember that moment vividly. I stood by the counter, running my fingers along the worn wood, each scratch and groove feeling like a reflection of my life. At 43, I often feel like I'm carrying the weight of lost dreams. Daniel and I have been married for over 20 years. He's 45 now. There was a time when he was everything to me, my anchor, my comfort, the one person who made the world feel safe. These days, he's just there. A shadow moving through the house, saying little, feeling even less. We had such a beautiful beginning. I was just out of my teens, working as a waitress at a small diner on the edge of town. Daniel used to come in every Thursday, always ordering black coffee and blueberry pie. He had this awkward, sweet smile that made my heart flutter. I was 22, he was 24. After my shifts, he'd pick me up, and we'd drive for hours with the windows down, talking about everything and nothing. Our favorite spot was an old lake outside town. We'd sit there in the still summer air, making promises to each other, about our future, our dreams, the kind of life we'd build. We talked about getting a quiet house, maybe a couple of dogs, and living simply. He'd reach for my hand, and in those small, quiet moments, it felt like nothing could ever break us. We shared kisses under the stars, wrapped in a kind of magic that made everything else fade. Back then, the love between us felt untouchable, pure. But that kind of fire, once neglected, doesn't just go out, it turns to embers, then ash. And one night, chasing even the faintest glow of what once was, I made a choice that may have burned everything to the ground. But fires dim with time, don't they? The warmth we once shared slowly faded until all that remained was a chill I couldn't shake. The silence between us used to be comfortable, even sweet, but now, it stretches endlessly, like a canyon neither of us knows how to cross. I used to fill our home with small talk, silly stories, dreams I'd make up just to see him smile. Lately, I've stopped trying. I catch myself holding back, the words stuck in my throat like they no longer matter. And Daniel, he's not the man he used to be. The way he once looked at me, soft and full of care, is gone. Now his eyes slide past mine, heavy with something I can't name, anger, maybe, or quiet disappointment. I don't know exactly when the distance started growing between us, but I feel it in every word he doesn't say, in every time he walks by without even a glance. I'm left staring at the back of his head more often than his face, as he disappears into that office of his. It's the small things that hurt the most. I used to cook his favorite Sunday meal, pot roast, just the way he liked it. I'd take my time, perfecting the seasoning, waiting for the smallest nod of approval. But somewhere along the way, he stopped noticing. So I stopped cooking it. These days, it's just quick meals, eaten in silence from opposite ends of the table. His office has become a wall between us. He hides behind its closed door for hours, and I pretend not to care. Sometimes I find myself standing at the sink, water running over my hands as I scrub a dish that's already clean. The clink of porcelain echoes too loudly in the quiet house. I glance back and see him there, on the couch, phone in hand, face lit by that blue glow. Scrolling, always scrolling, as if whatever's on that screen matters more than I do. We don't speak. We hardly even look at each other. The silence has become the only language we know. My hands start to tremble as I set the plate down. There's a weight pressing on my chest, a strange mix of sadness, frustration, and this desperate hunger for something real to break the monotony. I want to scream, to throw a glass and hear it shatter just to feel something. But I don't. I just stand there, holding it all in, gripping the counter like it's the only thing keeping me upright. Then, out of nowhere, his voice cuts through the air. It's sudden, sharp, and unfamiliar. He says we should go out, somewhere different. I freeze, dish towel still in my hands, unsure if I heard him right. I turn slowly to face him. For the first time in what feels like forever, he's looking at me. Really looking. There's something in his eyes I can't quite name, maybe a challenge, maybe something darker. He doesn't wait for me to answer. Just shrugs like it's no big deal. Says it's a private club. Someone at work mentioned it. Thought we could check it out. There's something off in his voice. No warmth, no softness, just a strange edge that twists my stomach in knots. Still, I hesitate. Part of me wants to say no, to ask what's really going on. But another part of me, the lonelier part, clings to the thought of us doing anything together. Maybe this is his way of trying, of reaching out, even if it's awkward and cold. So I nod, forcing a small smile and say, okay. Let's do it. Upstairs, I stand quietly in front of my closet, running my fingers along old clothes I haven't worn in years. My hand pauses on a red dress tucked near the back. It's bold, snug, the kind of dress that once made me feel powerful. I pull it out and hold it to the light, remembering the last time I wore it, how it made me feel alive, like I still mattered. Slipping it on again now feels strange, like stepping into a memory. The fabric hugs me in places I've forgotten were there, touching me like a whisper of who I used to be. I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror. The dress brings out my dark hair and stirs something I haven't felt in ages. For a second, I almost don't recognize the woman staring back. She looks fierce, but fragile too. When I walk out of the bedroom, Daniel is already by the door. His eyes flicker over me, just for a moment, but then he turns away. He doesn't say a word. Not even a quiet compliment. The silence cuts more than if he had said something harsh. I follow him outside, my heels clicking against the pavement in the cool night air. With every step, the sound echoes a little louder, like the emptiness growing between us. I don't say anything, even though my head is full of questions. I just hold on to the hope that this night might mean something, might change something. When we arrive, it's not what I expect. There's no flashy entrance, no signs, just a plain building tucked away like a secret. The only detail is a black door with a small brass handle. Daniel knocks twice, and someone opens it. Inside is a long, dim hallway that seems to swallow every sound. My heart races as we step through. The air inside feels different, heavy with something I can't explain. A man, silent and faceless in the shadows, gestures for us to follow. We walk behind him through the narrow corridor, deeper into the unknown. Then we step into a room, and I freeze. It feels like stepping into someone's dream, or maybe a nightmare. The walls are a deep black that seem to drink in the little light in the space. Antique lamps flicker softly, but they don't warm the room, they only cast strange shadows. The darkness feels alive, like it's watching, waiting. My skin tingles with a creeping sense of discomfort. Thick velvet curtains, dark as midnight, cover what must be windows, but they're drawn so tight I can't be sure. They hang still and heavy, making the room feel sealed off from the rest of the world. I feel like I've stepped into a cage. The air smells faintly of cigar smoke, sharp and bitter, mixed with the deep, musky scent of expensive cologne. It's the kind of smell that stays with you, lingering in your clothes and in your thoughts. Every part of me is on edge, unsure of where I am or why Daniel brought me here. The smell in the room clings to the back of my throat, rich, bitter, and sharp. It speaks of power and secrets, making it hard to breathe steadily. I'm still trying to make sense of the space when I notice them, 5 men emerging from the shadows, as if they'd been there all along, waiting. They're older, late 50s or 60s, dressed in suits that fit like armor, tailored to perfection. Their faces are lined not just with age, but with a knowing confidence, something predatory that makes the air around them heavy. Their eyes glint with an intensity I can't name, but it sinks deep into my bones. None of them introduce themselves. No names, no greetings. They don't need to speak to take control, their presence alone shifts the room. I feel exposed in the red dress, painfully visible under their gaze. One steps forward, his silver hair catches the low light, his jaw sharp and expression unreadable. He points to a wooden chair at the center of the room, stark and solitary against all the shadows. His eyes shift to Daniel as he speaks, voice low and commanding. He has to watch, until the end. The words hit me like ice water. I gasp, my body instinctively jerking back. I turn to Daniel, waiting for him to object, to stand up, to take my hand and walk us out. But he doesn't. He just sits down, slowly, like this was always the plan. His face is unreadable, almost blank, but for a split second, something flickers in his eyes. Uncertainty, maybe fear, whatever it is, it vanishes too quickly to grasp. Another man speaks. His voice is rough, gravelly, and there's a scar on his cheek that looks like it's seen things no one should. He stares directly at me, his gaze sharp and cold. If you're capable of this, do it, he says flatly. But he needs to see. My thoughts spiral, confusion, dread, but beneath all the panic, something else rises, something I don't expect. A strange, quiet defiance. A desperation. I want Daniel to see me. To feel something. Anything. After so many years of being invisible to him, maybe this is the only way left. My hands tremble at my sides, but I don't move yet, caught in the strange gravity of the moment. The men draw closer, slowly, deliberately, like it's some kind of ceremony. One reaches out, his fingers cool against my flushed skin. The touch sends a chill down my spine, not from desire, but from something raw, unfamiliar. Another man leans in, his breath brushing my neck as he murmurs something I can't quite hear. Every hair on my body stands on edge. Then, silence. A heavy, suffocating stillness. The men who loomed just moments ago seem to melt back into the shadows, like they were never really there. Ghosts, maybe, or something worse. I'm left trembling, my hands fumbling with the red dress that now feels like it's clinging too tightly, like it's betraying me. Every inch of it reminds me of the weight of what just happened, and what it means going forward. My skin prickles with the aftershock, shame and adrenaline twisting through me, making it hard to breathe. Their gazes may be gone, but the tension still lingers in the air, thick and unmoving. It's just me and Daniel now, alone in this black-walled room that feels more like a prison than anything else. I take a step toward him, the sound of my heels sharp and jarring in the silence. Each step feels heavier than the last, my legs barely steady under the weight of everything that just happened. He's still sitting in that chair they made him take, like some broken king on a crumbling throne. His hands clutch the armrests so tightly his knuckles are drained of color, almost glowing against the dark wood. I stop in front of him, close enough to see the deep lines in his face, lines that weren't there an hour ago. Or maybe I just never looked close enough before. I search his expression, desperate for something. Anger, sadness, disgust, anything to show me how he feels. But his face is unreadable, a frozen mask. Only his eyes give him away. They burn with something I can't name, intense and terrifying. Like staring into a fire I both fear and want to walk into. I try to speak, but the words scrape out of me in a whisper, cracked and raw. This was about you, I say. I wanted you to see me again. The words fall out of me, tangled and uneven. I try to explain the aching loneliness that brought me here. I felt invisible, Daniel, I say, voice barely holding together. I've been here this whole time, and you wouldn't even look at me. I needed you to feel something. Even hate. I just needed to know I still mattered. My voice breaks on that last word. It sounds too vulnerable, too real. But it's the truth. Raw and terrible. He doesn't respond at first. He doesn't move, doesn't blink. When he finally speaks, his voice is ice. I saw, he says. And now I can't unsee it. His words land like punches, each one colder than the last. I feel the sickness rising in me, the full weight of what I've done hitting all at once. I thought I wanted him to react, to care. But not like this, not with that kind of finality. I reach for him, my hand shaking, just wanting to touch him, bridge the space I created. But he jerks away before I can. Stands up so fast the chair scrapes loudly across the floor. He doesn't yell, doesn't throw anything, that would have hurt less. Instead, he turns his back to me and walks toward the door, each step slow, heavy, like he's putting as much space between us as he can without saying another word. I don't follow. I can't. I just stand there, frozen in place, the silence he leaves behind pressing in on me like a weight I can't lift. It wraps around me until I can't breathe, until everything feels like it's caving in. The room is empty now, truly empty. The men are gone, just shadows in my memory, echoes of something I can't erase. What remains is silence, heavy, echoing off the black walls, trapping me in a cycle of regret I can't escape. I force myself to move, to follow Daniel, though every part of me wants to crumple to the cold floor and disappear. My heels strike the wood as I rush after him, out of that suffocating room and into the night. The air outside hits me like ice, shocking my skin and sobering the madness still clinging to my thoughts. The days that follow drag on in a numb, gray fog. I'm stuck inside our home, once filled with warmth and light, now cold, hollow. It feels more like a mausoleum than a home, haunted by who we used to be. Every creak in the floor, every ticking clock, reminds me of the silence between us. Daniel avoids me entirely. It's like I've become a scar he can't bring himself to look at. He sleeps in the guest room now. The door stays closed, a firm boundary I'm too afraid to test. Most mornings, I wake up to an empty house. The only trace of him is the faint scent of coffee still lingering in the kitchen, proof that he was there, but left before I could even see his face. He disappears before sunrise, leaving me alone with the weight of my own thoughts. My mind is a prison, playing that night over and over like a punishment. The dark room, the flickering light, the chilling eyes of those strangers. Daniel's voice cutting through me, I saw. And now I can't unsee it. Those words haunt me, looping endlessly, each repetition driving the guilt deeper into my chest. When I close my eyes, I'm back in that room, caught in the heat and desperation that pushed me to the edge. I wanted to be seen, to wake something inside him. I thought it would bring him closer, force him to feel something again. But instead, all it did was break everything apart. I can still remember the feel of that red dress brushing against my skin. It used to make me feel powerful, seen. Now, it feels like a scar I can't hide, a decision I can't undo. I've tried to fix things, to reach out, to break through this frozen silence between us. I left notes on the kitchen counter, begging him to talk, to give me a chance to explain, to apologize. I've stood outside the guest room door late at night, whispering his name with a shaky voice, praying he might just say something, anything. But the silence is always the same. Cold, heavy, a wall growing thicker each day. Sometimes I stand there for minutes, my palm pressed to the door, imagining I can feel his presence on the other side. But even if he's just feet away, he feels miles gone. That distance, emotional, not physical, hurts worse than any fight. And I don't know what stings more, his absence or the knowledge that I'm the reason he's gone. Exactly 1 week after that night, I came home from a long walk, my head buzzing with regret, thoughts spinning in endless circles. The outside air was sharp against my skin, but it couldn't cut through the storm in my chest. I opened the front door, expecting the same empty silence I'd grown used to. But then I stopped. Daniel was there, on the couch, rigid, unmoving. He didn't look at me at first, just stared straight ahead. My heart thudded painfully in my chest, part hope, part dread, as I took a step forward. That's when I saw them, a neat stack of papers on the coffee table, waiting like they had a purpose. He finally looked up, and our eyes met for the first time in days. But there was nothing in his gaze. No warmth, no softness, only emptiness. You wanted truth. Here it is, he said. His voice was hollow, like he'd rehearsed it, stripped of any feeling. He slid the papers toward me, the sound of them scratching the wood louder than anything should be. I moved closer, my legs barely holding me, and looked down. My breath caught. Divorce. The word sat at the top of the page like a sentence. His signature was already there, bold, final. That black ink cut through me more sharply than anything he could have shouted. The days that followed passed in slow motion. I kept staring at those papers, not believing this was real. But he didn't waver. Within a week, he was gone. I watched from the hallway as he packed. No tears, no fights, just quiet movements, careful and precise. He took only what he needed. Some clothes, his laptop, a few books. He left the rest, as if all the memories tied to our home were too heavy to take with him. The photos of us, still smiling on the mantel, remained untouched. They captured a life we used to believe would never end. The furniture we chose together still sits untouched. The couch where we used to curl up during rainy evenings, the dining table where we spent slow mornings over coffee, all of it remains like artifacts from a life that no longer belongs to me. Every piece whispers memories I can't silence, turning our home into a museum of loneliness. Without him, the house feels too large, too quiet. I wander through it, aimless, my footsteps echoing off the walls. The stillness is suffocating, the kind that wraps around your chest and refuses to let go. I pause at the guest room where he'd been sleeping. The door is ajar, the bed, stripped bare. I stare at the blank mattress, a strange ache tugging at something deep inside me. Loss, maybe, or the last remnants of hope I hadn't been ready to let go. In the kitchen, I run my fingers across the counter where I once left my fragile, handwritten pleas, notes asking him to talk, to listen, to forgive. They're gone now, probably discarded without a glance. The only sounds left are the hum of the fridge and the occasional passing car outside. The silence feels heavier now, final. I'm truly alone, and that truth sits in my bones like a winter that won't end. The divorce process moves fast, cold, clinical. There are no fights, no dramatic scenes, just documents, appointments, and signatures. A date is set for court, and it hangs in my future like a storm cloud. When that day arrives, we don't speak. I sit on one side of the sterile courtroom, Daniel on the other, separated not just by physical space but by all the things we never said. I glance at him when I can, searching his face for something familiar, some trace of the man I loved for over 20 years. But his expression stays blank, his eyes focused on the judge. We sign the final papers in silence. The sound of the pen scratching across the paper is the only thing between us. And then it's done, just like that. 2 decades collapsed into a few stamps and the dull thud of a gavel. Outside the courthouse, the sky is gray. I feel empty, as if everything inside me has been scooped out, leaving only a fragile shell behind. As time crawls forward, weeks slipping into months, I try to make sense of it all. I think back to that night at the club, the night everything began to unravel. Oddly, I don't regret it. Not the way people might expect. That moment, as raw and reckless as it was, came from a place of desperation. A need to feel seen. To wake something in a marriage that had gone cold and silent. I was trying to thaw the ice, to shake us out of the numb routine that had swallowed us whole. It was a cry, not just for attention, but for connection. I wanted Daniel to see me again, not just as the woman he shared bills and chores with, but as the woman he once loved, desired, chased. I wanted a reaction, even if it came as fury or heartbreak. At least it would have meant he still felt something. At least it would have meant I still mattered. In that moment, beneath the weight of those strangers' eyes, I felt something I hadn't in years, a strange, fleeting sense of power. It was twisted, yes, but real. For just a heartbeat, I felt like I had taken something back, something I'd lost in the quiet erosion of our marriage. But that moment came at a cost I never saw coming. And while I don't regret the desire behind it, I do regret what it took from me. What keeps me awake in the stillness of the night isn't the memory of what I did, it's the fact that Daniel couldn't look past the act to see the pain that caused it. I had wanted him to understand. I had hoped he would see it not as betrayal, but as a desperate cry. I wanted him to meet my eyes and recognize the years I spent shrinking inside myself, aching for connection, slowly fading in his indifference. I didn't want revenge or punishment. I just wanted to be seen again. Thank you so much for taking the time to read this emotional journey. If this story touched you, made you reflect, or even just held your attention for a few minutes, then it has done its job. Life is complicated, and so are the choices we make. Through every twist, every heartbreak, and every moment of truth, stories like this remind us that we're not alone in what we feel. Your support means everything. If you found value in this story, please subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another powerful tale. Your comments and engagement not only inspire us, they keep this platform alive. We have many more real, raw, and unforgettable stories coming your way. So stay connected, stay curious, and remember, every story has something to teach us. This story is a fictional dramatization inspired by real emotional experiences. Any resemblance to actual events or persons is purely coincidental. The content is intended for mature audiences and is meant to explore themes of emotional vulnerability, relationship breakdown, and self-reflection. Thank you for being part of this journey.